Okay.
Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to the meeting of the Swansea Bay City Deal Joint Committee on the 12th of November 2020. First item is apologies for absence. Mr Evans.
I have apologies from Councillor Rob Jones, Neath Talbot Council, and Ian Westley, Pembrokeshire Council.
Okay, and I believe we've got other members attending in their place today. So welcome Ed Latham, Councillor Latham.
Thank you, Rob.
And also who, in terms of officers, who's representing?
We've got Stephen Jones from Pembrokeshire.
I welcome Mr Jones. So thank you for that. We'll go to declaration. Apologies. Any other declarations? Sorry, any other apologies for absence?
Yes, Rob, from Professor Medwin Hughes, Vice Chancellor of UWTSD, and I'll be representing him in this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr Selby. Much appreciated. Any other apologies? Okay, none. We'll move on then to declarations of interest. If I could go to the monitoring officer first, Ms. Breda, if you would like to give us any advice.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to give some monitoring advice in relation to agenda items 12 and 14, which both relate to the Pentra Owl business case. There are a number of partner organisations mentioned in the business case, together with some officers who have some responsibilities. Can I suggest that the partner organisation representatives present today and those officers declare a personal interest only in relation to both agenda item 12, which is the presentation, and agenda item 14, which is an exempt item, but which is the business case. So that's a personal interest only for those members who are representing the partner organisations. So that will be the universities and the health board, and also the officers that are named within the business case. I'm happy to do that by a show of hands. So if you press the hand icon, we can take that as a declaration, and Hugh will send out the relevant forms to complete.
Okay, so please press your hands now if you declare an interest.
Yeah, Wendy's got a hand up.
My hand's up as well, Hugh.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
Chris, yeah.
Yeah, so's mine on behalf of UWTSD, Hugh.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all very much. We'll move on then to minutes of the previous meeting. I've had nobody raise any amendments or corrections with me. So if you're happy to agree those minutes, please, could I have somebody move them?
Happy to do that.
Okay, and somebody to second. Thank you very much.
Second, Chair.
Thank you. All agreed?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Announcements of the chair. I just two short announcements. Firstly, to say that, as you will be aware, following the disappointing announcement that the Tidal Lagoon project in Swansea Bay could not proceed I think it was nearly 24 months ago now, this joint committee approved a piece of work which would enable us to explore other opportunities to exploit tidal technology in the region. And I just wanted to say, I think, I wanted to commend the work that has been done by the panel who undertook that work. And we are hopeful of a further announcement in the next few weeks from both UK and Welsh Government, which hopefully will see us being able to progress the provision of tidal technology in the region, which I think everybody would welcome. The second announcement today was just to say members will be aware that the City Deal project for Swansea Digital Waterfront has been progressing significantly during the pandemic, and we reached a milestone yesterday of the both the announcement of Copper Bay as the development's formal name, but also today the topping out ceremony, which commemorates a milestone in terms of the completion of the framework and the main building elements. Again, very pleased to hear ministers congratulating both the city and the region in terms of the delivery of that project, and confirming that it is one of the biggest developments currently live in the UK, which I think we should all be proud of. So again, I know we're coming to items on the agenda which will add significantly to that in terms of the region's delivery shortly, but I think it's important that we recognise we are making significant progress as a region in delivery of our city deal obligations. Moving on then to public questions. Mr. Evans, I don't know whether you've had any public questions in.
None received, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to our first substantive item for today, and that's the Pentra Owl presentation. In a short while, I'll introduce Sharon Burford to do the presentation, but I'd like to go first to Leader of Carmarthenshire, Councillor Emlyn Dole.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Chair. And as you said, I'm glad to be able to bring this to joint committee this morning. It is a huge project and hugely significant as well. And as we've all had to do with our individual projects, I've lived and breathed this one for so long. In order that we can deliver both for Carmarthenshire and also for the region on an innovative and unique offer that will attract interest and do that on a global stage in terms of that offer. Indeed, at a recent OECD meeting that I attended, Professor Kevin Morgan referenced the project as one of the best he'd ever seen, and that comes as high praise from him, and welcome that comment. The scope, the ambition and the reach of this enterprise, as I've said, is huge. The partnership that has been forged with universities, Health Board and ourselves as a local authority, culminating in a groundbreaking, innovative enterprise incorporating that ambition that it places so very clearly. Even in its placement, where it sits geographically and demographically, is vital as well. I just thought I'd reference Pentra Owl for you because we thought long and fast about that and the branding, and we thought through it very carefully because translated to English, it's a healthy breeze. That's what it means, and that was what we wanted it to suggest as well and mean, because it speaks to the holistic nature of the project and what it offers, and features that unique combination of academic, public, business and health facilities to create those significant opportunities for employment, for education skills, training, as well as a direct provision of health and leisure. As well as that, added to that and allied is that network of integrated care and physical rehabilitation provided at the village, which offers the improvement of independence as well as that testbed for the private sector, so that they can pilot the assisted living and life science technologies as well. That meaning, of course, at the end of that the creation of nearly 2,000 jobs, 2/3 of which are directly attributable to the City Deal investment. I'm glad through yourself, Chair, to be able to hand over now to Sharon Burford, and I'm not overemphasizing by saying that she has been the leading light in all of this, and on many occasions a ray of sunshine as well, as she put her expertise and her drive and her energy totally into this project, and I'm so appreciative to her as well as my Chief Executive for all the work that this has entailed and the vision that it brings, and I'm sure she'll explain that, Chair, as you introduce her to present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dole, and Sharon, welcome. I'll hand over to you in a second. Can I just say to members on the call today, though, if you do have any comments or questions for Sharon, if you could keep them to the end of the presentation, and then we'll have some time for comments and questions at the end of the presentation. But Sharon, welcome, and I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Dole, for those kind words. But it is a huge team, and I can't say I've always been a ray of sunshine either. I am a nag, so I do apologise to all the people around, particularly in the partners, that I have nagged over the last couple of years. Professor Steve Wilkes being one of them. So apology. But it is a huge team. I wonder, Greg is kindly offered to share the presentation for me. So I wonder, Greg, can you start the presentation? Thank you. Thank you, Greg. So what we've got on the screen, just to kick off here, what we've got on the screen here is the architectural image of Zone 1. Zone 1 is the part of the whole site that I will be concentrating on today. And the image you see there is the result of our RIBA Stage 3 work. I'll say a little bit more about that later on in the presentation, but this is actually a view looking south over the lake onto the Zone 1 building, and that gives you an idea of the scale and scope of what it's going to look like. Thank you. Okay. So just to put this into context, the whole of the Pentra, this master plan describes the whole of the Pentra Owl site. Zone 1, which is the subject of the business case, is just the central portion there, which is the area highlighted in blue. So it is that large building in the middle of the site, which is the core part of the Zone 1, which is the part of the business case. What I'd like to, if we can move on to the next slide, because I'm conscious I won't take too long and I need to leave some time for questions. What I wanted to just highlight with this slide is that the city deal outputs are significant. Although I've just highlighted that the city deal element of the site is relatively small, it is just the central section of that Zone 1. It is a vital part that enables us to generate the benefits. It is the investment into the project that enables us to implement the cross-partner working. The city deal investment itself is likely to create over 1,200 jobs. Those jobs are in research-based business development. The city deal investment will enable us to have 60 skills development programs on site there. Many of these will run alongside the clinical delivery, which will be going on site. This is absolutely vital to us to address these key recruitment and retention challenges that we face in our whole health and care sector. We believe that in partnership with the Health Board, the clinical services there will significantly contribute to improved health outcomes. And again, I'll just say a little bit more about those as we go through the presentation. Can I have the next slide, please? So the city deal investment specifically will create the facilities for education, skills and training. I'll say a bit more later, but they are this continuum of training will go from entry level through to postgraduate. The city deal investment will create our space for business incubation and acceleration. So we'll be able to grow companies, pilot manufacturing space. And these businesses will be focused specifically around life sciences and health. To bring this all together, we then have clinical delivery and research space. And that's really important because of how we want to work as an integrated partnerships. I would just pick up on this image, there are two blocks, one either side. The block that's in blue and the block that is in orange, those are the leisure elements of the Zone 1. The orange element is the state-of-the-art gym and leisure facilities, and the blue are the aquatic centre. So, go to the next slide, please. I think I've spoken a lot, and I always do speak a lot about the partnerships, and these are what will give us the maximum, and these are what will enable us to maximise our benefits and give us those really, really important objectives and outputs. I'll just pick up on a couple. We've had, when we've looked at designing the leisure facilities, we've had therapists from the Health Board working with the leisure team. So what they've created within the gym, they've enabled us to create a facility where we can maximise the opportunities for physical rehabilitation. So therapies, where we will be giving occupational therapy and physiotherapy in the community. And we've And through the design, we've been able to maximise the opportunities for that. We've looked at rehabilitation between health and social care, a residential rehabilitation. How can we maximise our opportunities to bring people back into the community from the hospital as early as possible? How can we provide viable opportunities to help people not have to go into hospital? Research and business, huge work going on currently with the Health Board around providing facilities for the Health Board to deliver its research alongside its clinical delivery in a community. So I think that those are the sorts of partnerships. Education, we will be working with our education partners so that we can deliver that education within the clinical delivery space. So we are providing opportunities for our next generation of trainees to be actually trained within the clinical environment. So if we can move on. Thanks, Rich. Now, this is a really, I think, fantastic indication of the partnership buy-in to this project. This, the arrow diagram there gives you an indication of the range of courses that we can deliver within Pentre Awel. We have signed now memoranda of understanding with further and higher education institutions, and those cover the range of disciplines and courses that you see on that arrow. Working groups have been established with each of the academic partners to take that work forward. I think this is where we had a gateway review, and this part of the work was highlighted as one of immense significance. I think this is a real game changer for the community and for how we retain and keep people within the workforce. I just want to say there is one other thing I would add to this slide. This slide very much concentrates on health and care, but through the procurement process that we are going to go through for the contractor, which I'll pick up in the last slide, we will be working with our colleges of further education and other training partners to look at how we can create apprenticeships linked to the construction contracts so that we have a huge impact in the community. Thank you. Next slide. I think most of this has really been covered in by what I've already said and by what Councillor Dole has said. But I think I just want to pick up a couple of points around health and well-being. And that is the premises that we've designed within the Pentre Awel Zone 1 are designed specifically with the aim in mind of ensuring that we can train people alongside clinical delivery. Consulting rooms have been set up in such a way that will enable trainers to move back and forth, to be able to monitor students' progress, to see the consulting rooms are slightly bigger. All the design has been tailored with these partnership goals in mind. I would say, I would pick up the COVID impact as well. We'd always anticipated having a relatively small health technology hub at Pentre Awel, and this was to facilitate telehealth and telecare. Based on the learning from COVID, what we've done is we've looked at that facility, and we now realise the importance of making that COVID ready. That will be based on our learning from COVID. That will respond to some of the challenges that we've been set and how we can optimise healthcare moving forward. I don't think there's much more to add on the research, just to say that the clinical research that we're looking at here is very much community focused. So it's looking at how our community reacts and our community works with us in terms of new developments in health and care. Can I go on slide, please, Richard? This is my last slide, and I just want to give you a little bit of context about where we are in terms of the development. I mentioned earlier that we had now completed the stage 3 RIBA detailed design work, and we are now in the process of pulling together all our procurement documents. That will be those should enable us to go out to the contractors framework to identify a main contractor very early in the new year, first couple of weeks of January. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. That was really helpful and very informative, and great to see the project coming together in that way. It's I think it's a real positive both for the region and for Carmarthenshire. So extremely well done. I'll go now to perhaps back to Emlyn and to Councillor Emlyn Dole and Wendy Walters, if there's anything you would wish to add before I open it up for general comments and questions.
Only, Chair, to thank Sharon once again, and as you said, that wider team for all of that, to see that realised in such a huge concept and a wide-ranging one is absolutely fabulous, and we just look forward now to progressing this and getting it actually built and delivering as it should do. Your points about delivery are absolutely front and centre in this, Rob, because that's what it's all about, and can't wait for that to happen. And thankful to all who participated so far in making that, turning that dream into reality. That's what it's about, and look forward to it. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Any comments or questions for Sharon on the presentation, or anything anybody wishes to say on the report itself? No, if Sharon, thank you very much. You've clearly done a fantastic job and answered everything that's required. We'll go then. All those in favour in terms of the report there? Is everybody happy to agree?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Well done, and another great move forward. So thank you, Sharon. Yes, much appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll move now then to item 7, which is the internal audit report. And can I welcome Joe Hendy to present this report? Joe?
Thank you, Chair. This is the internal audit report from the work that was undertaken in February 2020. Obviously, this report was initially planned to be presented to the Joint Committee in March, but with COVID, it has been delayed. So I'm not going to dwell too much on the content of the report, but what I would say is on page 6 within the agenda pack is an update against progress in implementing the recommendations. Good progress has been made during the year on implementing the recommendations from both the internal and the external reports. And a number of the things that were outstanding back in February were in relation to responsibilities that formed part of the duties of the programme director. And at that point, the programme director hadn't taken up the post. So I'm well aware that there has been further progress made during the course of the year to address a number of these recommendations. So I think we're in a very good position going forward, and we'll be shortly scoping out the work for this financial year, which is likely to focus more on some delivery of some of the core projects and the programme in total. So happy to take any questions, but overall good progress has been made, and I'm aware that there's a number of strands of work going on at the moment to address the outstanding recommendations.
Thank you, Joe, and always good to hear an auditor say we're in a very good place and good progress has been made. So very, very pleasing. I'll go to Chris Moore next.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Joe and the team. This is a sort of relationship where you know, there's inter-authority interaction in the fact that the audit function is coming from Pembrokeshire as part of the responsibility. I have a certain responsibility in the Section 151, and I think it's really worked quite well. And I just like to thank the team. As Joe has mentioned, there are a number of actions that have already been completed that are on there, and the others are targeted to be completed by the end of the year, with the last one the end of January. So progress has been made, and I think the the independence coming from Pembrokeshire sort of works quite well with the structure of the joint committee and the city deal, Swansea City deal. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, and I'd echo your thanks as well on behalf of the committee. I think absolutely appreciative of the work that's been done, and again, also from the central office in terms of making sure that we delivered on the things that we were asked to do. So, okay, so we've got the internal audit report. We've had the update from Joe. I go to my leader colleagues. All happy to agree that report?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's again unanimous. We'll move then to item 8, which is over to Mr. Evans and an update on future dates of joint committees.
Apologies, that's item 7, Chair. Sorry.
7.
Yeah. Apologies. Yeah.
That's all right. I've consulted with all the council leaders about future dates for 21-22. I've got nothing to add to the dates I've outlined. We've kept to the same pattern that we've tried to maintain, with the exception of 7th of April 2022, which I brought it forward to avoid a clash with Easter. Other than that, I've got nothing to add to the report.
Okay, thank you very much. That gives us a good steady heartbeat of meetings going forward. Again, I'll go back to leader colleagues. All happy to agree the future dates programme?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That is agreed. Okay, turning to the next item then, which is the Swansea Bay City Deal procurement principles, and I'll hand over to Jonathan Burns to take us through this item. Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few slides, so I'm going to share my screen for this and future agenda items. Let me just get that. So you should be able to see my screen. So Swansea Bay City Deal procurement principles. These have been work in progress for some time. In terms of our approach to what we've done, so we've made sure that they've developed for the purpose of the projects and the project teams that we have in our portfolio. The whole point of them is to encourage our project teams to look at how they procure, ways of working, goods, services, how they're specified and procured. And the whole essence of that then is to maximise our economic, social, environment benefit for each and for the projects. So we made sure that they're aligned to the Wellbeing and Future Generations Act 2015 for Wales, and that's the 5 different ways of working. And we also went through quite a significant consultation process with lots of different parties like the Economic Strategy Board, industry representatives, local authority officers, legal and procurement specialists, and also the third sector representatives, and then make sure that we're all rounded and joined up with the Welsh Government officials as well. So it was quite an in-depth consultation process to do that. In terms of the principles, they're in the report that you've had as part of the paperwork, but there are 5 principles. The first one is to be innovative. Second one is to have open, fair and legally compliant procurement processes. The third is to maximise community benefits from each contract. The fourth is to use ethical employment practices. And the last one, the 5th one, is to promote the Swansea Bay City Deal. So for me, the most important part of this is that we've developed them, but how are we going to implement them? So I've got a series of things that we will do. This is at project, programme and portfolio level. So we will ensure that we have a steady flow of our PR and communications. I think back in the past, we can make a concerted effort to make sure we do that. Ensuring that we have a roadmap for procurement, and we can share that with industry at the earliest point so that they have advance notification of any forthcoming opportunities. There could be some joining up of stuff to do with that as well. So sharing a best practice, exploring collaborative opportunities. We will look at how we do that through workshops and through various engagement events for the project teams and the wider community in early 2021. And we have Peter Austin as our business engagement manager. Peter will provide support to projects. So all projects will have Peter engaging through their procurement processes. And again, Peter can draw in industry and feedback on how we're doing with these things as well. So we want to make sure that we have, there's lots of different things when we're in the process of procurement and somebody's been appointed where we can do buyer events, looking at how we deliver social benefit activities, but also looking at broader things like a portfolio, a contract tracking system. So making sure that we have that joined up information looking at the value across the supply chain for our region. And we could even look beyond that as well to the other city regions and growth regions as well. So what we want to do is make sure that we support regional businesses. We want to work closely with agencies such as Business Wales, Sell to Wales, industrial representative bodies, etc. And then the final point is about making sure that we monitor and report our procurement progress, and especially the community benefits around that. And we will do that at local authority or lead deliverer perspective, but we will also do it at a city deal portfolio perspective as well. So Chair, that is the summary of the principles and what we're planning to do. So back to you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for that. Really helpful and clear again. So I'll go if anybody's got any questions or comments on the presentation that Jonathan's taken us through, or anything on the report itself.
No.
Chris, yeah. Chris Foxwell, if you'd like to come in.
Yeah, I'd just like to add from the Economic Strategy Board, we've been involved in the creation of the. We're really happy with the principles and think there will be benefit to local business. And we're also keen to be involved in the monitoring to improve some of the outcomes, including the creation of the local supply chain and where contracts may be one outside the region. We look to encourage obviously investment from those winning factors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And again, just to add to what you've said and what Jonathan alluded to, I think one of the things that has been a bit of a myth doing the rounds, and I can understand the frustration from local businesses, is that with all of this extra investment, the £1.3 billion potentially coming into the region, where are the local firms going to see the benefit of that investment? And I think these principles help us to demonstrate that. Councils already are huge spenders of money with local firms in what we do in terms of our large schools, estates, rebuilds, and other big capital programs. But with the city deal specifically, I mean, again, I'd go back to the Swansea Digital Waterfront project and the Copper Bay development with the arena. Again, we've taken those principles on board already, and rather than having one major big contract, we've split the packages of work up into over 200 packages of work, exactly to allow local businesses to be able to bid individually for the pieces of work that they can take on. So make sure the spend stays local and that it supports local jobs for people in our area. So, I'm sure that will be a consistent theme now through the rest of the projects in the deal. We should be very proud of this. But again, we do have to work within the law, but we are doing everything we can to make sure that local procurement works for local firms and protects local jobs. So I think it's good to see this report here today. I don't know whether anybody else wishes to comment or not. I can't see any hands up. If not, I'll ask then again back to my leader colleagues. Are you all happy to support the report? Please show.
Yeah, happy.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. Yep, that's unanimous. So thank you, Jonathan. That's agreed. We'll move then to the next item, which is the Swansea Bay Risk Management Strategy. Again, John, back to you.
Thanks, Chair. Again, I'll share my screen as a aid memoir of the risk management strategy. Again, you've had it in the pack. We've managed risks since City Deal has started, but this is now formalising it and putting a strategy around it, a hook to hang off, if you like. And as part of that process, we're also revamping some of the templates that we have. So I'm just going to talk through that kind of process and what this entails. So Swansea Bay City Deal Risk Management Strategy. So what is it all about? Risk management includes how we identify and assess risks, but also the most important thing, again, is how we respond to those risks, how we mitigate or accept them. We're trying to promote that we have an environment that is risk aware. We're striving to put these risk management processes and information at the heart of the decision making that we make, both at Programme Board, Economic Strategy Board, Joint Scrutiny Committee and Joint Committee. So all of our governance structures, but also to help inform Welsh Government or any other stakeholder associated with the Swansea Bay City Deal. So the governance structures and everything associated with it, the portfolio office that I oversee will manage and address that coordination, both at project and at portfolio level. And we will look at also opportunities within those, because there's often positive outcomes that you can have from these opportunities, and the challenges can be turned into that. So that's a kind of introduction. In terms of what we've done, as I said, we've managed risk since we started this, but Q2, just to give you an insight of what's happened, we've had quarterly risk registers. They have been shared with all the relevant governance committees. We also provide monthly project updates. Those include risks and issues. We held a risk management workshop, and thank you to Swansea University. We had their risk manager come in and work with our project leads and the PMO and do a risk workshop. And the point of it was to look at the benefits of risk management, how to undertake it, alignment to the Orange Book, which is part of the HM Treasury Green Book, but the Orange Book focuses on risk management. And then most importantly, how we identify risks. So based around the cause, the risk and the impact of those risks. So we've created a policy that is now embedded within the strategy. We've done COVID impact assessments. We've got an integrated assurance and approval plan. We've done a follow-up workshop looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats around the portfolio and project risks. And again, working with Swansea University, bringing them in with the risk manager to work with our project teams. And as a result of all of that stuff that we've done, we now have this risk management strategy, and we have a new standardized risk register template, and that is now out with all the programs and projects to populate, and an issues log as well. So lots of work has been done in the last quarter, and going forward in this quarter, we're continuing that. And that kind of reflects on what Joe was saying on some of the stuff around the audit, is getting some of these governance assurance reporting things in place. So in terms of what is the risk management strategy, so as I said, it's aligned to the Orange Book. That's a supplementary guidance to the Green Book. What it will do, this strategy, it will inform stakeholders, all of you are associated with this board and other boards, how risks are identified, assessed, addressed, reviewed and reported. We will look at how we enhance our capability, willingness and understanding around governance and assurance. It details roles and responsibilities, both at group or committee level and for individuals. Expression about the appetite and tolerance of risk, and a clear expression of what that is, and instructions how risks will be scored. We've standardized definitions and language, and we will do this for the broader portfolio management stuff, but this is particularly for the risk management, and also about how we implement our approach. And we are following best practice. We are following the guidance that has been set on us through HM Treasury guidance. So all of this effort that we've done, it hasn't been done in isolation. It's not just desk-based. This has been consulted with all project and program leads. We've made sure that we've shared this with program board and got feedback to incorporate. So this is a joint effort, if you like. In terms of, well, what does it mean? What are we going to do? The process, the diagram that you should see in front of you now talks about the 4 stages of what we'll do. But the outer ring on that diagram talks about communications. And the whole point of risk management is making sure that we communicate at all aspects and involve lots of people. We don't just do it on our own at a desk. We engage and we consult. So how we identify, assess, address and review risks, all of the information in that strategy is all detailed in there. So that is more for the implementation of this. The main tool that we're using for the risk management strategy is around the risk register and issues log. But the risk register is produced and managed by our PMO, is part of the strategy. It will document, assess, address and monitor risks, as you would expect. It identifies preventative controls and corrective measures at the earliest point that we can. And we want to try and standardize that across all of the projects, programs and portfolio as a whole. We will continue, because we have done in the past, but we will continue to report those monthly to all governance boards, and joint committee will receive monthly updates, identifying any key risks that we have on an ongoing basis. So that's the strategy. The second part of my presentation, Chair, is around what we currently have in our risk register and the COVID impact assessment. And what we've done as a PMO, we've taken the highest risks, the red ones, and we've identified what the title, risk description and review control actions. So I'm just very quickly going to go through those 5 and then receive any feedback on this on the COVID impact assessment. So slippage of the portfolio in terms of delivery. What we've done in the last quarter, we've implemented all the ACTICA internal and external review recommendations. They are with the Welsh Government. We hope to get that signed off. We've had good indications, but we just haven't had a formality on that. We've created the Integrated Assurance and Approval Plan. That's been deployed across the projects. We've done lots of gateway reviews, and that's bringing external teams in to review our projects. So we've done it at portfolio level. We've done it for homes as power stations, low carbon, Pentra Owl, digital, and we will continue to do these at appropriate times just to make sure that we're on track. And then the other one is around the COVID impact assessment that I'll touch on in a second. The second one, it kind of links to the first, but a lot of the stuff there, the programme director, me being in post and having dialogue with government stakeholders in additional to the first risk. Also around approval of business cases. You know, we've had homes as power stations approved in the last quarter. We've got lots of other business cases going through regional approval now. We just heard from Pentra Owl. And we are also making lots of things around the kind of project submissions, working with Welsh Government to better understand our process, their process, and getting things through as quickly as we can. Onto engagement with stakeholders. That one, again, is a key risk for us. Is make sure that we continue to engage with everybody that we can, private sector, industry particularly. For us, one of the primary issues is making sure that we have as much commitment from public, private sector particularly, and get all of those in place as early as we can post approval, but not just regional, that's Welsh and UK government approval as well, and making sure that we engage with those key stakeholders and get as much commitment as early as we can, which again links to the next risk, which is around securing of revenue funding. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at progress through quarterly monitoring, financial reporting, evaluation, and again to make sure that we have as much commitment up front as we can to demonstrate that we can engage with stakeholders, get commitment and buy-in, and then ensure that the projects are viable. And then the final one, which is nearing completion because the timing, this is around EU funding commitments. There are two projects associated with that, Pembroke Dock Marine and Neath Talbot. Both are progressing, so we're on track for that, but it's making sure that we engage with WEFO to make sure that the funding is available and what we are providing and delivering is joined up, but we're on track for that. So hopefully that risk will be closed off fairly soon. Penultimate slide is the COVID impact assessment. I reported some time ago our process to do that back in May, and we identified 8 different criteria and then scored them per project against those. This is across the portfolio. There has been a little bit of change, but not much movement. The main concerns remain around achievement of targets, reputational effect, stakeholder partnership commitment, and then more secondary around the impact and scope and objectives. But again, all of the risks are being identified and mitigations put in place, but these are specifically for COVID impact. Okay, so in terms of our final slide for risk management, today we hope to get sign off for the strategy. We will implement that strategy across the portfolio. Programs and projects will populate and standardize the risk register, and that will also be available to share. We'll standardize terminology, templates, processes, and reports, and then make sure that we update on a regular basis. And that is then fed into our governance structures to make sure that we make informed decisions based on the information that we have. Chair, that is the risk management strategy.
Okay, thank you again, Jonathan. Again, I think all of those risks are sensible ones to be shown today. I mean, they reflect, I think, the situation that we're at. I would say, just in terms of funding, as you referenced it, we are anticipating a further release of funding anytime in terms of the next phase of £18 million from government. I believe that is on the Minister's desk for final approval. So hope the Minister can get that off his desk very shortly, and certainly we'll be urging him to do that. So again, hopefully we will see that happen in the next few days. I will pause here. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Jonathan on that report and on the presentation? Chris, yeah, do you want to come in? Chris Foxall.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Jonathan, I was just wondering, will there be an opportunity to review this on an annual basis?
Yeah, there'll be more. It'd be more frequent than that, Chris. So the way that I think traditionally the way that it's been done is more desk based, but we will take it to governance, the associated governance groups I mentioned in there, to do regular reviews, and not just about the mitigations, it's the identification of risks. So we will plan in a schedule to make sure that there's opportunities for all key stakeholders to identify and also assess where we are with the risks, because that is a group's opinion of where we are. That might not be everybody's opinion of where we are. So we can have that dialogue, yes, but more frequently than annual.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, Chris. Go to Professor Wilkes next. Steve.
Thanks very much, Chair. John, that was really helpful presentation, and I think it details from an operational perspective how you can collect the risks and assess those at a program level. In terms of defining maybe risk appetite, you talk a little bit about that in your document. How do we know when we've exceeded the risk appetite in those areas? So how many red risks does it take before intervention is required? And I was just wondering if you had any sort of strategic plans in that area.
Yeah, so in terms of appetite, there's a section within, there's a couple of sections actually within it, Professor Wilkes, where we talk about status being comfortable, manageable, unacceptable. And though that dialogue that I just referenced with Chris Foxhall, that dialogue would happen with the governance groups to make sure that we are comfortable, we think we're managing them, or that appetite is unacceptable. So that would have to go through that rigorous control measure, conversation, dialogue to make sure that we are, as a group, as an organisation, being City Deal, that we're happy with that level. The scoring within the risks kind of identify where we are and the risks that are probably need more attention. But I think what you're talking about is a more overarching thing, a accumulation of risks, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah, it was more about the accumulation of risks and you know, when you've exceeded your appetite for the number of red risks, as an example.
Yeah. So again, whether we do it in this meeting or whether we do it in future meetings, the question could be asked based on the red risks that we have and the availability for the committee to see the rest of the risks. Are we as a group comfortable? Do we think we're managing it well, or is it unacceptable? And then we would have to put some other interventions in place. So I think we need to have that dialogue.
Okay. Thanks very much, Don.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's also worth noting, John, as well. It's not just the risk rating, but the significance of the risk itself, because we may have quite a few red risks there. But if they're ones that we're happy to manage and that they are ones that are not hugely impactful, then obviously that changes the dynamic. So it's the overall picture in terms of risk management, as I think Steve has pointed out. So that's fine, folks. I can't see any other hands up, but if there is anybody who wants to come in, if not, again, I'll go back to colleagues for a vote. So we've had the presentation and the report. All happy to agree?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you. About the next item, which is the portfolio action plan.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'll share my screen. The portfolio action plan, I'll explain what that is. So there's two components to it. The first one is a recent activity that we've just undergone as a region. We had an accounting officer review that was coordinated by Welsh Government, but involved UK Government as well. So it was commissioned by what Welsh and UK Government now have as an implementation board called the Joint UK and Welsh Cities and Growth Deals Implementation Board. Right, so that board commissioned an accounting officer review. That was to approve our portfolio business case. That was a 5-week process. It started in August. We have had our recommendations, and I'll go through some of those, and we are awaiting approval of that AOR process and the conditions that we had on us to make sure that we can approve future business cases, drawdown of funds, etc. And we will work towards these recommendations that the Welsh and UK Government have commissioned. And we're already doing it anyway, but that's one part of the report. The second part then is the external stage gate review, Many of the people on Joint Committee were part of this. We instigated it ourselves. It was conducted in July, led by Wendy. And what it did, it assessed our approach and progress on our portfolio. And then it came up with 6 recommendations. In terms of the stage gate review, we ended up having an AMBER delivery confidence assessment that's been shared with the Joint Committee and Programme Board. It was a 3-day review. There were over 20 stakeholders who had conversations. 6 recommendations came from it. We've made really good progress on pretty much all fronts. And the 2 are probably outstanding now. One around the, they called it the inertia by the terminology of portfolio programmes and projects. And so we've worked with Welsh Government to understand the terminology and their interpretation of that. And we are now trying to cascade that out to our portfolio. And then the other part is around the merit to differentiate the accountabilities for this committee, the strategic oversight, and the Programme Board being more around delivery control. So it's making sure that we have function appropriately with agility and delivery tempo, as they called it in the recommendation. So I just wanted to draw your attention to those 2 recommendations. And then in terms of the AOR process, the part of the process involved, I think there were 8 reviewers or 8 or 9 reviewers. They came back with 143 comments. My team responded to those. We engaged with people en route to do that. And then from that came 15 recommendations. You have that full report in Appendix B. But I just wanted to draw a few of those to your attention rather than going through all of the recommendations. So these are the key ones from our perspective. So what we need to do is make sure we have baselines, both at the portfolio and project level. So if we started in 2017, effectively that is our baseline. But what distance have we travelled since then to date and in future dates? So we need to make sure that we have appropriate baselines. How we quantify benefits, and we talked about community benefits being part of procurement, but these are community benefits in delivery as well. So how we quantify those, how we standardize certain things. So stuff around economic appraisals, which are part of the business case. These are decisions to invest, but generally they will return a value, and that could be monetary or it could be non-monetary. And then financial appraisal, how affordable is it? I talked about commitment and stuff around risks. So making sure that we have an affordable business case. Standardized definitions, and again, that's going to be a common debate at the moment. Project, programs, portfolio, and then the arrangements for governance and assurance. And we know we're on track. We've had good feedback from our audit, but we have to continue maturing and progressing those. And then the last one is around our monitoring. How do we report and make sure that people understand the good stuff that we're doing, or any things that we need to make decisions on? So effectively, those are the 2 components and the detail of those. So in terms of, again, moving forward with it, we have a portfolio action plan that's been shared with you as an Excel spreadsheet. That combines all the stuff from the AOR and from the external stage gate review. My team will coordinate the activity of those, but what you'll find is that pretty much most recommendations will cascade down to the project leads, because generally you might need something in a portfolio and you would have to cascade that out to all projects to gather the information to then report on it at portfolio. So we will provide the action updates. We will report those through the governance processes. We will report them to Welsh Government, UK Government. What we need to do is we need to get some clarity from Welsh and UK Government on many of the things. So in terms of time and priority ownership status, we will continue monitoring those and make sure that Welsh Government provide what we require from them in a timely manner, and make sure that we respond to what they're asking us. And again, we can challenge on some of the things that they may ask us to do, because it may not be appropriate, so we'll work in dialogue with them. But again, subject to any feedback, well, we've had feedback from Programme Board, but more about Joint Committee. We're seeking approval of these recommendations in the action plan, and we'll continue to report them to Programme Board monthly. And then this will be effectively the portfolio office's operational document and forward work programme. So Chair, that is that one.
Yep. Thank you very much, John. Again, very helpful, and recommendations very clear there. I think one thing just to note, I mean, John has identified that we are now a portfolio, and that is a terminology that we will now be using going forward rather than a programme. and obviously I think it would make sense if everybody's in agreement for us to reflect that at the appropriate time. So if I could, I'll ask first if anybody's got any comments, questions or contributions in terms of what John has taken us through. But if not, if I could ask you to ask colleagues to go to the vote on the recommendations with that additional one that we update the terminology to reflect portfolio at the appropriate time. So is everybody happy with that? Please show.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you all very much. That's carried unanimously. And then John, your final report today, which is the quarterly monitoring report.
Okay. Again, standard practice, I'll share my screen again. So just for context, the quarterly monitoring reports are replacing what we had as an implementation plan. So what we'll have going forward, this is a proposal at the moment in terms of template. The template will update on the portfolio and at a project or program level. And what I'll do, you've had all the information in the packs, but I'll go through a kind of the approach that we've taken and the purpose of what they are today, but going forward, it will just be the updates from portfolio and projects moving forward. So it's what you've been familiar with previously, but in a different format is what I'm getting at. So in terms of the purpose, is to assess whether we're on track, whether we're achieving our aims and objectives, is to monitor activity, pretty much down to how do we improve our efficiency and effectiveness of our portfolio and our projects, and making sure that there's visibility. So again, what do we achieve in the last quarter? What do we plan to do in this quarter? What outputs have been delivered for the projects that have been approved? Anything around financial analysis, where are we with that on a quarterly basis? And then things around assurance and approvals as to what's coming up. So in the pack, you would have a scorecard status for each project and program. Currently, they're self-scored, so we will mature that and make sure that the portfolio office challenges that. We will also do that through program board to make sure that the scorecard status for each project fits where we currently are with it. But just to go into our approach, so all project leads and the portfolio office will consult of the templates. As I said before, it applies to both portfolio and at project and program level. It aligns neatly to the monitoring evaluation plan that you approved some months ago. This is effectively put it into action, that plan, and it's coordinated by my office. So what we want to do, we want to continuously monitor both at portfolio level in terms of performance, look at any things around issues or constraints. They could be based around delivery, operational type activity, technical, resource, financial, whatever it might be. We would just make sure that we monitor it and report it on a regular, frequent basis. So in terms of the portfolio, again, the detail is in the packs, but I just highlighted a few bullet points of what we've done in the previous quarter and what we plan to do in this quarter, just to give a joint committee an update. So in quarter two, we achieved the completion and submission of the 11 fund and award conditions. We've heard about them a lot. We just are awaiting, as Rob said, that sign-off letter. The recruitment of 4 new staff. So my final member of staff will be in on the 24th. So once Phil is in, we will have a full complement of 8 people in the portfolio office, which is great. All the people who have just recently joined and the existing members of staff, we're all gelling together as a team, so that's been really good. And a lot of the stuff that you see and coming through the committees now, all of the cogs working behind, if you like, this is what you can see in terms of the output of that. We had our external stage gate review, 6 recommendations, amber rating, which is a good rating. And we did the AOR process that led to those 15 recommendations that were referred to earlier. And we've matured a lot, or created more than matured, a lot of governance documentation. And these are important documents. You can't underestimate how important these are, because this sets the stall, and we will deliver all these things around monitoring, evaluation, assurance approvals, risk management, etc. And there will be others to come, like communication plans and various other things. So what do we plan to do? We are currently implementing the AOR recommendations, the stage gate review recommendations. We're looking at how we further establish governance, assurance and monitoring. And we're trying to get over the line as many projects as we can, as quickly as we can, because the planned activity of anything going forward is about delivery. if there's anything I've learned in the last few months, it's getting these projects delivered. So hopefully now with Pentra Owl and various other things coming forward and hopefully getting approved in as quickly as we can start seeing a lot more delivery, and that's what we'll see coming forward as reports. In terms of at a project and program level, so just to remind everyone, we have 9 projects or programs. This is a kind of summary of all the reports that you have for each project, just to say where we are with them and what we've achieved in the last quarter. So we've done lots of independent peer reviews, those stage gate reviews. Digital received an amber green status recently, so that's absolutely brilliant. Digital will come forward in the next quarter, as I'll mention. What they call PARs are external reviews. They've happened for homes as power stations and low carbon. And again, I know Nick is on the line from Neath Talbot, but that has significantly strengthened the business cases, and we're nearing completion, ready for submission to Welsh and UK government. So planning consent has been awarded for the Swansea Bay Technology Centre, which is part of low carbon. We've updated business cases and presented to Programme Board for the waterfront and Eregan, and they were very well received. They were well received by Welsh Government as well, which is great. We've completed the steelwork on the indoor arena. In fact, it's probably progressed even more since this was written. So the bridge and various other aspects are already underway or completed. We've also completed an external stage gate review, as Sharon said, on Pentra Owl. So again, all of these things strengthen and they show a progression. So it's really good. And then we've had contract awards for elements of the Pembroke Dock infrastructure project, which is all part of Pembroke Dock Marine. And then the 2 outstanding business cases, they're in development at the moment. Campuses has made good progress and has got governance structure set up to help progress that. And then the last one is skills and talent. And again, we've just had a draft this morning as a PMO as an update, but we hope to get that in coming months. So that's activity which is done in Q2. So a lot of these are reflective of what was in Q2 because it's progression of. So we aim to get joint committee and ministerial approval for digital infrastructure and Pentra Owl this month and next month. Submission of skills and talent and the campus business cases for the portfolio office to review and then take through our regional approval process. So we hope to get that in this current quarter. Swansea Council Cabinet decision on the digital village. That's part of the Swansea Waterfront project. Progress of actions. So there's lots of actions that we have and recommendations for project and portfolio level is just putting those into place. And we also had lots of engagement around ministerial dialogue, and we're responding to those as well in this current quarter. So Minister David T.C. Davis has been digitally down to have a look at projects and portfolio and meet ESB, and we're just responding to some of those things. And we hope that construction will work, is actually progressing in this quarter for low carbon following planning consent. So Eregan phase 1 is currently under review, and that will inform phase 2 scoping. So that will be coming forward in Q3. And we're going to look at how we've had funding agreements through joint committee. Funding agreements will come back to joint committee for information in terms of updates. This is following implementing them down in Pembroke Dock Marine. So this is putting them into practice in effect. So we have some tweaks, but that's all they are. And discussions to finalise Pembroke Dock Marine funding agreements are nearing completion. And we hope within days, if not the next week or two, that we will have those finalised. And that project is in delivery in effect. And once that is happened and we are content with the funding agreements, we'll progress them for all the other projects. And there's particular focus on the regional based projects to make sure that we all sign up to and agree how these things will be delivered. So the final point near final point is the financial monitoring. So our current position is we have 5.3 million of City Deal grant unallocated. This is a result of the revision that we had last year around the Neath Talbot programmes. The Swansea Bay portfolio is 9% under the original anticipated investment budget. For me as a director, that fits well within a kind of tolerance that I would think is acceptable, even though it sounds a lot. It's 117 million. When you're talking about a 1.13 billion pound portfolio investment, that's fairly acceptable. So the need for tablet-led reprofile changed things, as did the PDM project, and that's the accumulation of the 170 million was from those two reprofiles. So the revenue requirements are currently set at 3% of the total forecasted expenditure, which is, I think, acceptable, and there's no variance from what we reported last quarter to this quarter on finances. And then the final point there about current position is, now that Pembroke Dock Marine is in delivery and the funding agreements are near final stage, we need to look at our financial profile for that project with the partners due in Q3 and establish governance arrangements for that project. So in terms of future development, this is for financial monitoring. We're going to look at funding status updates for both private and public sector investment commitments. I've mentioned this in a couple of the other things. This is one of the most important things to give confidence to our sponsors and to our regional partners that we're delivering on what we said we would. Making sure that we report expenditure in year, and that we look at what I call third tier reporting, which is down to projects within programs. So we will report those through our program board. The last point before next steps is the integrated assurance and approval plan. So this is around what key governance activities are we planning in the next quarter. So you would have had in the packs a fully fledged IAAP. This is just a subset of that. But this looks at anything around governance, whether it's committee meetings, updates of documents, audits, all of those things go into this timeline, and then we will just update again at program board level, and then a snapshot of that to joint committee. And they will be part.
John, could I ask you to, sorry to jump in, John, could I ask you to draw to a close on this item now, if you could, because I know we're short for time on the final items.
So this is my last slide, Chair. So any feedback from today's joint committee, it can be outside of the meeting, would be welcomed, or questions that you might have at the end. We will support all projects programs to provide those monthly, quarterly updates, and we will make sure that we work towards what I call an annual performance report. That's part of the monitoring evaluation plan, and also look at the reporting schedule going forward to make sure there's visibility shared amongst stakeholders as to what's coming forward. So, Chair, that is the end of that presentation.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan, very much. Any questions or comments to Jonathan in terms of the update there in terms of the monitoring report?
Nope.
Okay. So could I ask you to show in terms of your acceptance of that report?
Happy.
Happy, Chair.
Okay. Yep. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Jonathan, for taking us through all of those items, and appreciate your updates and getting through them very efficiently. So thank you. We've now got the final item, but before we do that, we've got the item on going into private session. The monitoring officers laid out the rationale for doing so. So again, could I ask you, do you agree with the recommendation to go into private session? All show, please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Again, that's carried. So I'll just wait for us.